episode. What do you know?
Did we do everything?
Yeah.
Did we talk about the originals?
We didn't. All right, we're gonna have to do that next time, and I'm gonna just, I know it's gonna be a bonus episode. How about the original?
Yes, bonus, and that because that's going to be short also, I think.
All right, cool, a bonus episode. There you go. So now we are in 1987, and Kiss has been steadily rebuilding their brand for the 80s. They were enjoying the momentum that radio hits like Heaven's on Fire and Tears Are Falling gave them. MTV was ruling the music business, and Kiss was full on video mode, which presented the band in massive light settings with big production, a concept which they haven't exploited since the 70s. For this new era, Kiss presented a more stripped-down urban wardrobe, well, sort of, which incorporated black leather and denim. Now, I must say, Crazy Night has always been one of my favorite Kiss album covers. There was always a certain quality and creativity that I could see in its making. Plus, the composition was very much in Kiss fashion, presenting the band in a rotational symmetry distribution, pretty much like Rock and Roll over a decade before. That is, rotational symmetry is when you can basically turn it upside down and it doesn't affect its composition, right? It's perfectly symmetrical in 4 axes. So I guess my first question is, what was the concept for Crazy Nights?
Again, Paul, I want broken mirrors.
So was Paul's idea?
Broken mirrors, yeah.
Okay.
Was that when he was playing the broken mirror guitar?
No, the broken mirror guitar started in Dynasty, 1979.
Way before, okay.
But it's the same concept, so probably the idea comes from the guitar, maybe.
I said, I'll try it, Paul, I don't know. So Crazy Nights, Broken Mirrors.
Did you have the working title at this point, Crazy Nights for the Broken Mirror?
I think so, yes.
Okay, all right.
I called this fellow Walter Wick, photographer. I called Walter, I had worked with him before on some non-Kiss projects. Matter of fact, it was something we had a Wall Street client, Bear Stearns. Did a lot of work for Bear Stearns. They were a huge Wall Street company. And he was great at doing little tricky stuff, setting up little miniature things. And Walter is famous for the series of children's books called I Spy. And they're, pretty big picture books. He sets up elaborate scenes, miniature scenes. Could be a little city or a town or something that he builds. He has assistants. They create them. They build every aspect of it, and then he photographs it. But he hides something in there that's very hard to find, whatever it may be. Not real familiar with the books, but it's called I Spy, and it's for kids. And it's I spy a dog, peeing in a fire hydrant. I don't know. That's not what it is, but and you have to find it. And so the kids looking, and it's fun for kids. So if you look up the I Spy books by Walter Wick, you'll see what I mean. And he's done a whole bunch of them for, I think Scholastic is the publisher, but I'm not sure. And I don't know if he's still doing them or if he's moved on to other things. But so he was great at detailed work and just making things work. And the thing he did for Bear Stearns was sort of a little thing he had to build and make it look realistic. He had fake clouds. He made them out of cotton, just pieces of cotton, and against a blue background. But the way he lit them, they really looked like clouds. It was just cotton, So he knew how to do stuff like that. So I said, I think Walter would be good at this, getting the Kiss faces in the broken mirrors. I wasn't even sure how we were going to do it. I thought maybe we'd have to shoot the mirror and then with some kind of retouching, strip in the faces from different photos and put them in. And Walter said, no, I think I know how to do it. He said, can you bring me some prints, color prints of the guys you want to use? And I said, sure. So I made prints. I made everybody about the same size, brought the prints down there. And the setup was interesting. He shot it with an 8x10 view camera, big camera, with the bellows and all that whole business.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it had bellows. He might have had a modern version of the 8x10. Yeah, I probably did, metal. But he had the camera was on a stand, a metal pole that went up about, I'm gonna say 7 feet. And then it cantilevered over this way. And then he had the camera mounted here looking down. So it was like that.
Pretty much.
Here, and then on a pole going to the ground.
Pretty much like an animation setting.
But it was a pole, and then like that, and then just the camera looking down. Right. Then animation stand is like that, but more in miniature.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller, because you do it on a tabletop. And this was 7 feet high. And that stand was very heavy because it had to hold the camera still and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And on the ground, on the floor, he went out and bought a whole bunch of mirrors, 12 inches square. And he did them 12 inches square. The fact that it was square was important because we're working with the album cover. And he took each guy, is the photo that I brought, and mounted them on a piece of board, stiff board, and placed them around the mirror that was on the ground, on the floor, like that. So they were reflecting into the mirror. And then he took a bowling ball or whatever it was and dropped it smack dab in the middle of the mirror, and it shattered. And then he would manipulate the photos to get them to reflect just the right way. And then we had to take each piece of glass and tilt it up or left or right or raise it or lower it. And he did it with this little, kind of like a kneaded eraser, but it was what photographers use. It's a little sticky, and you can roll it in a ball.
Yeah.
And you can manipulate things with that stuff, And that's what he had going on between all these broken pieces of glass. And he's on his hands and knees, and he's looking at the reflection. I mean, this is fastidious work.
I imagine it took forever.
It took a while, and we didn't always get the mirror to break the way we wanted it to, or, we had to go through a lot of mirrors. Paul came to the studio to see the broken mirror idea and how we were handling it, I guess. I mean, he came in the middle of the shoot. He wasn't there all day. He got up on the ladder and he looked through the viewfinder. He had to get on a ladder to look through the viewfinder of the camera.
Wow.
And he looked through that. He didn't have much to say. I guess he was satisfied that what we were doing was going to work.
Well, I would have been impressed just by looking at the process. I mean, it was so.
Yeah. It was quite a big deal, really. And it took a long time. We had some outtakes, and I called Walter and I asked him about this. And he said he doesn't have them, because I guess he sent everything to me.
Oh.
And I picked what we needed to use, and the rest just went in the file. So they're gone,
Wow.
But the outtakes, the one that I wanted to use was the one where the mirror broke into a gazillion pieces. Not these big pieces that you see on the cover.
Right. Yeah.
But in a million little pieces. Some were bigger than others, but some were tiny. Shards, slivers. And it was all exploded out from the middle where he had dropped that weight to break the glass. It shattered out from the middle. So it had a great dynamic, powerful, almost violent feeling to it.
Right.
And these guys were reflected a million times in every little piece of glass. There's purple ball, big ball, little ball, little half a ball, little bit of ball, no ball. Then here comes Gene, and around like that. It was so cool. And that's the one I wanted to use, but, because you can't see me good.
And again, that
Back to the
that was a constant consideration for them.
Constant, yeah.
It looked good on the cover.
But it was a mistake because the other photo was much more interesting, much more creative feeling. It was violent. It just had a lot going for it. Some of the pieces were skinny little shards, like pointed, like if you touched it, you'd bleed.
Right.
There'd be a little face reflected in there. And it'd be small, and then there'd be a bigger face and the bigger pieces. It was so good.
How long did it take him to organize it?
Yeah, they had to do it over and over again.
Right.
Well, not every time, because for the crazy ones, you would just kind of let it be. You know, whatever happened, happened. That was what's cool. What's cool about it. But for the one that on the final, we had to tilt it and aim it and get it. Yeah, you'll notice if you look at that, you'll see, you know, there's 3/4 Paul, 3/4 Gene. You know, it's pretty balanced about the amount of face that you see for each guy. It's pretty well balanced. Yeah, he had no outtakes, unfortunately. I was hoping that he would have.
That's a shame. So were you present in the back cover photo shoot? No? Okay.
Those photos were just handed to me.
Yeah, they were credited to Glenn Ferman and Mark Weiss, which is a famous rock photographer.
I know Mark, but who's the other one?
Glenn Ferman.
No idea.
Mark Weiss was a famous photographer. He worked for a Hit Parader and Metal Age and all those 80s hard rock magazines. He also released a book recently called The Decade That Rocked. I have it over there. It's a really good book. Oh. So he did everybody: Guns N' Roses, Whitesnake, Poison, Motley Crue. He did all of them. So I guess he was the hip photographer at that time. That's why they hired him, and he was doing Bon Jovi and all of those. So I guess they wanted the same look, the same type of trendy photo shoot. And there's Paul's thong.
Yeah.
So did you have any concepts that weren't used for Crazy Nights?
Well, yes. Like a lot of the album covers, we try different ideas. Mm-hmm. And they get shot down or they don't work for whatever reason. Then we wind up with the one that everybody knows. But so Crazy Nights, as I recall, there were a few ideas. Unfortunately, I don't think I really have any of them left except maybe one. I used Walter Wick photographer. He was the one who finally did the shot with the broken mirror, the one that is the album cover. But when I was down at Walter's studio, he had some experimental photographs, and I was looking at them. And he had one with women's legs and like from their knees down, and I don't know what it was for. And I said, that would be interesting if they were like enormous, like giants. And then the actual size people, the band, were standing there, and these giant women legs around them. I don't know really what it means.
Like the TV show Land of Giants?
I guess sort of like a Pink Floyd concept, something off the wall, something crazy. Mm-hmm. Doesn't really have to have a lot of meaning attached to it. You just look at it and say, oh, that's weird, So that's what I was trying, just stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so I said, look, I want to try something with with this idea that you've done before with the band in there. And he said, yeah. And he's good at trick stuff, photography, and he's very good at miniatures. He builds a lot of miniatures. And he said, I'll make prints of the guys. I'll make them this big, and I'll cut them out, and I'll stand them up, and then we'll have real women standing there, and they will look like giants. And in photography, the cutouts will look like real people.
Right. So you had real women posing with the little cutouts? Yes,
right. And so I went to the shoe store. I got the girls from the office, and one of the girls was my girlfriend at the time. And then the other 2 or 3, I don't know, was there 4? So I think 3 of the girls were like secretaries and what have you. So, and then one of the girls was my girlfriend. And I went to the shoe store, I got their shoe sizes. I bought shoes for everybody, and I got interesting, nice, crazy shoes, wacky shoes.
Was that the girl from the Rolling Stone album cover?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was before her.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's Anita you're talking about, Anita Russell. Mm-hmm. This girl was somebody else.
Okay.
So we did it. In retrospect, I should have had all of the girls wear the same shoes, sort of to make them look anonymous and just be women, not this woman, that woman, that woman, to give them any personality at all. They should have been devoid of personality, I think. And that's kind of what Walter had in his shot. They were all wearing the same black, plain
Oh, I see.
shoes, and I think that would have been better. So I screwed up on that. But it was only a layout for an idea. We could have changed it for the final. I think that,
So, boys and girls, world premiere. This is the Unused Crazy Night album cover that never came to be.
I did show it to the band, but
They didn't like it.
Paul especially, he was the one who made all the decisions, actually. He said, well, I want to be small.
Of course.
I want to be big, I mean, I see his point. I see his point.
Mhm.
I did others, come to think of it. I think they were all for Crazy Nights, but I didn't have the title Crazy Nights on them, as I recall. I was making up titles and putting it on. So maybe they didn't give me the title Crazy Nights until I was well into, making these ideas and concepts. And then maybe they finally got a title. I wanted to have a picture with them. And so a lot of times, like with the Dynasty cover, I have a picture of me with them in straitjackets, and there's one with the elder costumes and what have you. And I have one at the Creatures of the Night shoot,
Right.
and one or two others. So, you know what I did? We had the little cutouts of the guys. At the end of the shoot, I'm going to have a picture of me with the band. So I made a little print of me, the same size as the guys, a little taller, because I'm taller than any one of those guys.
Of course.
I am.
It has to be proportionate.
I'm around 6'4". I'm probably 6'3" now, and I cut it out and I stuck it, and then I put it in there with the rest of the guys. If I recall, I was thinking ahead again. So I'm looking up like this because the women are there.
You're looking on
Looking up their skirt. I did some other crazy stuff, but I don't know what happened to them,
So there it is, Dennis with Kiss, looking under some girl's skirts.
Yeah, that's right. Dirty old man.
And also, I don't think anybody have seen this apart from a few people, right?
That's true. Showed it to the band originally, without me in it, of course. Like I said, they shot it down, or Paul shot it down. And so I continued on, and then he came up with the idea of Broken Mirrors, and the title came about, and so we proceeded.
There was another idea that you proposed probably before you received the Crazy Night title that was attached to a title called Who Dares Win. Now, I did a little research and somebody sent me a scan of that particular Firehouse magazine. It's an article from July 1987, so about 3 or 4 months before the album came out. And it says clearly that one of the working, or at least the current working title at that point was Who Dares Win. So it was a concept for what it was, came to be Crazy Nights. But I guess the working title was Who Dares Win, and you actually proposed an idea for that. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
The title came from Paul. I think that little phrase, Who Dare Wins, is like from a military group like the Marines or the Rangers or somebody, isn't it? Oh, anyway, I thought it had a military origin of some kind. So Who Dares Wins, and if you don't take any chances, you're not going to get anywhere, and another way to put it. Eventually, that title fell by the wayside, but I think when I heard that title, I've always wanted to do something for Kiss that was a little out of the ordinary, a little different. The design group Hypnosis in England, they were always doing this sort of cutting edge stuff. I was aware of it. I admired it to a point. Some of it I thought maybe might have been a little forced, let's say, but I liked a lot of it. I liked the direction, of trying to do something like that. So I wanted to do something like that, and I did a few layouts that were, out there, you could say. Had nothing to do with rock and roll, had nothing to do with Kiss per se. I just wanted to do compelling images that would get your attention, and when you looked at it, you'd say, "What the hell?" or something. At least it would get your attention. So I was going for crazy stuff, and I did a few. And I guess I actually used the title too on a couple of them, Who Dares Wins. Just seemed, I'm daring to do a bizarre visual, you know. That was about it. I mean, I remember a couple of them.
So who's the guy? Who's the guy on the cover?
The one with the fish in the pocket,
Mhm. Who's the
that's
model?
me. And
Who's
me,
that?
me.
Oh,
We're in the office. We got the Polaroid or the Nikon, whatever camera we're using at the time, and trying to make layouts. And we need a picture, and no digital at the time, as you know. So the Polaroid was a very valuable tool because you would get an instant image. You wouldn't have to send film out to be developed and wait a few hours or the next day to
right.
get images back. And then you'd get some images and send that out for photostats and blow it up to the size you need, et cetera, et cetera. It just took too long, and I wanted to get going and chop, and make them. So we had the Polaroid, and Polaroid was a good tool.
Yeah.
So
They had good. They had good quality too. I mean, you can zoom in on those little Polaroids, and they hold a lot of resolution.
not bad. Yeah, if you have good lighting to begin with, you can get good results.
Yes.
So and I was working with Vinny at the time, my friend Vinny, who worked in the office with me, and so we helped each other do these layouts. I needed somebody to take the picture for me, so I'd get Vinny. I went into the conference room. I might have set up a couple of lights quickly. I got an old sport jacket or a suit jacket that I didn't really want to wear anymore. I got this idea of putting a fish sticking out of the pocket where you would wear a fancy handkerchief. And then I thought, I won't wear a shirt. I'll just tie the tie around my neck, and I'll have this jacket and the fish, and I'll crop the head off because I don't want to be looking at anybody's face. That's distracting because you say, who is that? So just this, which I always like that composition that makes. The guy's neck, the tie, the collar, and the two lapels. I've done a lot of drawings like that. Just those things. Tie, yeah, lapel.
That's very Magritte.
Yeah, and it is, and you're right. So I said, well, that'll be weird. People look at it. There's a big fish sticking out of his pocket. What the hell?
And what does the fish symbolizes?
Nothing. It symbolizes what the hell is the fish doing in his pocket?
You know what? It actually sounds like a dare. Like a dare. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if I win this, you have to
It's
dress.
it's almost like you can take almost any kind of unusual picture, very strange. Put Who Dares Wins as a title on it, and your mind will make some sort of connection. So that's what I did.
I was very intrigued by this one because I don't think anybody knew much about it, about the concept or whatever,
It may not have gone very far. I'm not too sure if I ever showed it to the band.
Oh, really?
I might have done it and said,
Oh, okay. So
I don't know.
that's
I'm
interesting.
leaving that as a mystery.
Okay. All right.
But they did reject a lot of stuff. One time, I don't know what album it was. It was late in their album career and my involvement with them. But one time, as a joke, I know they were down at one of the recording studios working on whatever the album was, and I was doing layout. One of the layouts I did as a joke and just to amuse myself. Do you know these very sentimental sort of we would use the phrase saccharine, overly sweet images that Hallmark cards have. You would send it to your sweetheart.
Oh, yeah.
On Mother's Day, or your sweetheart, darling, I love you. You're the best thing in my life.
Very sappy.
Sappy. There you go. I would have a picture of a rose, a little out of focus, with some dewdrops on it. I said, well, that'd make a great Kiss album cover because it's opposite of rock and roll, heavy metal or whatever, hard rock. And so I found a picture like that, a scene of the trees turning colors in the fall. It was beautiful, but it was overly beautiful. It was ridiculous. Like I said, out of focus areas and stuff. And then, so I blew it up in color. And in one corner, I put the Kiss logo. And on the other corner, I wrote, they didn't have a title yet of whatever album this was. and so in beautiful formal script, I said, September. And it was great. It was a nice tight layout, and I sent it down to the recording studio with other layouts, I guess, for them to look at. The only response I got back was Paul laughed.
Really?
It was funny.
So, but okay, it was obviously a joke. I mean, the Paul laughed, ha ha ha.
Yeah, I mean, at least he got the joke. I'm glad he didn't think I was serious. Although I didn't give a shit.
That's fun. That's very funny. Very funny. So this was the last, your last collaboration with the band, the last album cover you ever did for them.
That's right.
Right after this, they went into a legal disagreement with your boss. So what do you remember about that? Can you tell me a little bit of that? What do you recall? What did you see?
I guess the word got around the office that they were going to fire Howard as their manager, and then they also were going to sue him. And like you and I discussed before, probably the best source to read about that era would be Chris Lent's book,
right?
Kiss and Sell.
Mm-hmm.
So because he has details in there that.
Well, he says that at this point, Howard was acting as a manager office.
Well, he was. Yeah,
they were managing the band.
He took over after Bill got fired. Yeah.
Right. So in a nutshell, I think Chris says that they throughout 1979 to 1987, they were recklessly spending money, right? In stupid shit, like super expensive penthouses and laser systems for the shows that never really worked. So recklessly spending money. And then by the end of 1987, some of their investments didn't pan out as well. I think they were investing in coal mines. I'm not sure if I remember.
Howard's friend, Carl Glickman, Glickman Marx was the money management part, and Howard Marx was the rock and roll management part, different entities.
Right.
I think Carl Glickman got them involved in these investments that didn't work out.
Right.
Carl Glickman was on the board of directors with Bear Stearns, who I mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
a big stock brokerage firm on Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the board. Carl was a rich guy who was involved in stocks. So if Carl said to buy something, you probably would say, oh, wow, okay. He's got the knowledge.
Mm. So these investments didn't work out, and they lost a lot of money.
Right.
And they blamed your boss for it. And also, they say how, I guess the part that really shocked me about Chris's book was they were blaming them for their spending, saying, hey, you should have told us harder that we were spending too much money. And to me, that's
from spending.
That's a stupid argument. How could you do that? Hey, dude, stop.
You're grown men.
How could you say something like that?
I don't know.
So I guess they blame them for not being, I guess, strict enough with them in the money spending, which is a very stupid argument. They
were bitter, I guess, because they were selling a lot of records. They were selling out huge, arenas. They were on the road a lot, and they looked at their bank account. There was not enough in there.
Yeah.
They thought they should have a lot more money. So they had to blame it on somebody, I guess.
Right, and this was right around the time when Kiss was filling arenas again, which didn't happen for a while in the early 80s. So I guess they were shocked that, hey, we're doing good. How come we don't have any money left, right? So and then afterwards, after they got this legal battle with Howard, what happened? You told me that Howard handed everything to them, all the slides, all the archive material, everything.
I think so. Yeah, the all of their stuff was cleaned out of the office, and apparently he said, take it. Now, whether he legally signed it over to them is another question. They may have said, where's our stuff? And he would said, oh, just take it. Could have been casual. I know Howard was very hurt by this personally. He thought he was doing the best for the band. He thought he was their best friends. He thought he was best friends with Gene. He thought he was his buddy. And of course, this was Paul's idea to sue and fire and also O'Coin. Well, it wasn't. Gene went along with it.
He hired his therapist as manager.
I felt a little twinge of Schadenfreude. You know that German word?
No, what is that?
It means when you take pleasure in someone else's misery. And I felt a little twinge of that when I found out that he had hired his shrink, and then the shrink stole money and ran away.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yes.
I said, hey, and we thought we were bad? And I shouldn't say we, because I had nothing to do with anything. And, you know, Howard wasn't my best buddy, particularly. I worked for the man for 22 years. Our relationship was rocky often, often. So when those guys fired Howard, they never really contacted me again for any particular reason.
Yeah, I thought that was really shitty because at least they could have, I mean, you didn't have anything to do with the money spending. So at least.
No, they might have thought that I was part of the company.
Right.
And that I was them.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. All I was a hardworking designer guy trying to do my best for them, for KISS. I worked my ass off for KISS. And I took it very seriously, and I tried to do the best I could. So
after that, after 1988, I mean, the office didn't survive much longer, right? How many years?
No, 1990, we're out of business.
It's 2 years. Wow.
Howard got sick right after that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too sure that being fired didn't have something to do with it. His health went down.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a healthy guy anyway. He was overweight. He had pretty much stopped drinking. But before that, he drank a lot, so I don't think he really took care of himself up until that point. So, he had issues, and he had a stroke. That's what killed him. Yeah, the office, we tried to keep it open, but we had no clients. And, we had the entire floor at 655 Madison Avenue. We had the whole floor. So you can imagine what the rent was.
Right.
And no clients. So it was just a money pit. We had no staff at that point. Everybody was gone. So it was just me and Roseanne and a receptionist to answer the phone on the entire floor. It was horrible, really. It was horrible. It was very, very sad to watch it happen. At one point we had 80 people. It was a thriving, busy office. And then to watch it dwindle to nothing it was really sad.
And it's, to me, it's pretty obvious, and it's no coincidence that the next 2 album covers they did without you, they're very unimpressive. So Dennis, I really want to thank you for doing the show.
My pleasure. Hope the fans get something out of it. I think a lot of the fans do. Some fans could care less about, how graphics are done, but a lot of fans seem to enjoy the minutia.
Well, I've been getting nothing but praising for your stories, and
good reviews.
Probably the most comprehensive. Just read.
Well, even if I forgot a lot of stuff, it's still the most comprehensive because we talked about each thing, each one. Put it in a time capsule and throw it in the ocean.
I'm sure somebody on the KISS Army is gonna compile all this on a DVD and just sell it in conventions. But be my guest. I don't care.
Copyright Claudio Bergamin and Dennis Woloch. There it is.
So I want to thank you again. This was a lot of fun. And maybe we can find a pretext in the future to do some other show about
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
Maybe. Okay.
Thank you, Dennis.
Bye, Claudio. It was a pleasure. Bye.